found in a manzanita trunk near Shingletown, a town in Northern California, kind of near Redding, in Indian Territory by an individual named Roy Tollaby. Welcome back to History Roundtable. Today, we're going to take a little trip back into the Old West. This is an area that I fell in love with as a kid. I know you did too.
Of course.
Everybody played cowboys and Indians growing up, and
Absolutely.
Everybody wanted a revolver. And today we've got one. And we've got a couple surprises for you, but let's wind the clock back to the 1850s, 60s, and 70s.
Yep.
All right, let's go.
And again, let's just kind of recap a little bit. You know, there was a major event that took place from 1860 to 1865, and that was when brother went against brother. And this was the Civil War. And it was all about slavery and everything attached to it. And it was the North versus the South. And the economic divide, it was just, again, history tends to repeat itself when it's a hot topic of conversation, whether political or some whatever indecent thing against humanity. So after the Civil War, it was the race, and it was a race, and it was created by the gold rush in the 1840s. That, you know, gold in them our hills, well, California. And it was this mass expansion west. Well, how did they get there? You know, there has been all sorts of, well, Kevin Costner, you know, he is a big history buff, and he is doing a phenomenal job painting that picture of that expansion west and what people had to go through. And let's remember, you know, today we have the luxury of cell phones and communication. You know, you get in trouble, you chances are you have much better chance of getting out of that trouble now than you would back then.
Yeah.
You were on your own. And when you left whatever New England metropolis to head west, you were in a buckboard wagon, you were in tow with your livestock, all the supplies you think you're going to need, and of course you're going to need weapons.
Yeah.
So after the Civil War, you had lots of these weapons left over. Well, a lot of those guys continued in service, you know, in the Union, and this became the Native American Plains Indian Wars. And again, it was to settle all these territories, and we all know what happened to the Native Americans, which, you know, everybody has their opinion about that. Well, there were territories that were carved out of the land, that were reservations, or what have you. Well, you had people that policed those territories. Well, what we have in front of us this is a Remington black powder percussion revolver. This was the direct competition to the Colt 1860 Army, the Colt 1851 Navy, and the Colt 1849 pocket revolver. Those were the three primary Colts. Well, other people wanted to make money too, and Remington was right there. Yeah. So they came up with their own models. Now, to be very clear, I didn't have an original antique Remington. This looks like one, but it isn't. This is actually a reproduction that was made in Italy. But why do I have it here? Well, it's because of this. This is what we want to talk about. And of course, you're like, what the hell is that? Well, this is one of those, this is a time capsule.
Frozen in time.
Frozen in time. Now, I didn't find this, but according to this plaque, okay, and you can get a zoom in on that, this was found, this is the root structure and base structure of a manzanita tree. Now, this revolver was laying on the ground and laying there for a very long time, and as this tree grew, it picked up the revolver and lifted it off the ground, and it is solid in there. You can't pull this out unless you cut away the tree. That's what makes this so incredibly important and special And what a display piece, because this is nature. And again, Tony and I, we were just talking about this. Wow, there's a lot of symbolism going on in here. There's, the tree of life. And how ironic that as a solid part of this tree of life, that this cannot be removed from it. So of course I equate this to, well, without this, we wouldn't have the life that we have now.
Yeah.
And again, guys, I don't mean to ruffle feathers. If you're anti-gun or whatever your stance is, the thing is you cannot escape is that these were tools. And these were tools to not only protect oneself when there was nobody else to protect you, you were on your own. So whatever the fate of that person is or was that ended up losing this, and this was found in Northern California. And here, you could read this. My eyes suck.
It says Remington Single Action Army 44 cal, manufactured between 1863 and 1870, found in a manzanita trunk near Shingletown, a town in Northern California, kind of near Redding, in Indian Territory by an individual named Roy Tolleby. This comes from the estate of John Beckwith. They were born in 1904, passed in 92, and gave it to another individual.
L.G. Harrison.
Now, yeah.
I never knew John Beckwith, but John Beckwith was one of those guys that had a shop on the Coast Highway here in California back in the day when this stuff was very plentiful. And the gentleman that I was friends with, he's now passed away, was one of my best friends. He, World War II veteran. He was very good friends with John and always gravitated to this. And somehow, some way, he got it from John Beckwith's estate.
Wow.
And upon Gary's passing, he left it to me. So here's this incredible thing. And actually, what Gary had done is he had this sitting on a base and a lamp built around it.
Cool.
And it was his favorite thing. And he just thought, and again, and I'm going to just kind of turn this so you can see the different perspective. It is just, again, like you say, it's a time capsule.
And go ahead and wiggle this a little bit, Sean, just to show it doesn't come out.
It's not coming out.
It's fused in there. It's not glued. The wood has permeated through the whole thing, so it is stuck. And you hear about stories about these getting found. Not just, I hadn't seen a pistol before, but I've seen in places like Arizona where you have, like, Yuma had a lot of activity. You have places north of that where they're finding a lot of gold, and where there were bandits. Up into Colorado, Denver area, they find lever action rifles just still sitting against a tree that have been there for 200 years.
So as the story went, as I was digging more around this, and a lot of collectors knew about this piece because it was very prominent, apparently, in his shop. And there was also a Winchester model 1873 that was found close by. It too was embedded in tree roots. And so it's like, that paint a picture. Well, obviously something went down there.
Oh, yeah.
And this, because these things were so valuable.
Yeah.
To anybody out in this open, untamed wilderness. You lost your firearm, man, you were just susceptible to anything that was going to come around.
Yeah.
You didn't have any way to protect yourself. So the fact that this was just left there, and that 73 Winchester was left there must have been some kind of shootout or something that happened.
Yeah.
And who knows?
Well, let's start to paint that picture a little bit. Because where I first start looking at it, especially Northern California, north of Sacramento, where all the gold is getting found, this could have been, that area has some bodies of water, some creeks that go through there. Yep. Could have been painting for gold. And especially if it was on native land, could have been a dispute with guys who weren't supposed to be there. Mm. Oh, you're on our land, take them out. They didn't find where their guns were. They left them on the tree when they went to pan for gold. So,
who knows? Who knows? I like that. I like that. But it's like your imagination can run wild when you see something like this. And that's what gives me a lot of joy over the years of going, well, that's possible too. Now you just presented another scenario. So it's like, I don't know. The possibilities are endless. But the thing is that this is here.
Yeah.
And we get to talk about it. Now, because we're filming it, it's immortalized.
Right.
And, so thank God, Gary, I have a whole file of this.
Yeah.
I have maps. I have, where the town, where the tree was. And hopefully, one day we're going to be able to go on a road trip.
Yeah.
And go and see where this was found.
I don't know if that's something you guys would like to see, but I know I want to go up there.
Well, and again, this is why we've done Patreon. This is why we're trying to build up these funds so we can do more expanded, than just here at the soundstage. We want to go out on the road. We want to use an item like this that tells a story that gives us the reason to get out there and go check it out.
Yeah.
Get out of this room.
Yeah.
But anyway,
the way I see this, they always say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Mm-hmm. A relic like this has got to be, 1,000 stories.
Yeah.
The possibilities are endless with this, especially being found here in California. Our history is rich, but when it comes to, the grand scheme of typical relics that we find, like you see on the East Coast, there's so much rich history going back to the 1600s and even further when the Spanish were there. Something like this is about the time where it really starts getting interesting in California.
Well, especially for American history.
Right.
And so much of the pre-American history is, for whatever reason, was covered up.
Yeah.
And let's just forget about that and focus on what we want you to know.
Yeah.
So we're trying to scrape back kind of that curtain a little bit to, this really did happen.
Yeah.
Despite what people want to tell you, the way the West was settled, it was a lot of blood, sweat, tears, anger, all of those emotions, all wrapped up in one. And how those people did it.
Uh-huh.
And how does that... We're men, right? Or trying to be.
Yeah.
Despite how we want to be knocked down. But that man of the family had to make that decision. We are going.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up the kids. Everybody get on that buckboard and go and try to find a future. A lot of them never made it.
Yeah.
And that's the sad truth of it. And through the weather, starvation, who knows?
Yeah.
But kudos to them. Those brave pioneers who did it. And here is an exact, this is what they left behind. This is the proof.
Yeah.
So cool. Now, cool factor. Duh. And this kind of crosses over to the bizarro category too. This is not something you see every day.
No, this is something that, you wouldn't see this in any show across the U.S. at any time. Maybe at some point, there was a traveling show about the Old West. Maybe you'd see something like this. We typically see a story maybe once every 10 years where somebody finds something cool like this, but it's never, encapsulated like this. So this is a 10 out of 10 for the cool factor, and whatever we're putting for the bizarro level, this is
that's kind of up to you guys.
Yeah, this is as high as it goes because there's more questions and possible stories than answers, and we only have what we have right in front of us. But man, we could go on and on about what this could be. You could write a whole story off this.
Right.
A whole novel about the Old West and looking for gold and traveling to this new land, and then after that, what happened? And then the gentleman who found it.
Right.
And now it's here.
But how that guy had the foresight to go, you know what? I'm going to leave it in there.
Yeah.
And just cut, because so many people would just hack this thing up just to get the pistol out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is nature's art.
Yeah. Well, it's much like the shipwreck coins that we love. We love when they have coral on them. That tells the story. That oftentimes when they're missing that, well, you don't know where this came from, what's possible, where was it found?
Case in point, we were contacted by some people that just stumbled across what they think is a shipwreck. And, we're not going to say where it is. They're dealing with their own legalities. But what they're showing us are these wonderful, artifacts encrusted with coral. And they're like, oh, we got to clean all these up. And I'm like, wait a minute. Just wait a minute. Because let's just say it's a padlock, you know, a big old lock. Well, you can tell the shape of it. You can tell that it's covered in coral. But once you clean all that coral off of it, it's just going to be a lock.
Yeah.
And I can put it right next to a lock that wasn't on a shipwreck. It's not going to be as cool.
Right.
The proof. You can't just artificially throw on coral growth on an item and go, it's from a shipwreck.
Can't just throw a tree to grow around it like that. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, I will say in my life, seeing what trees can do, trees as they grow can break boulders in half.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, you got to kind of think, oh, and this is going to go down the rabbit hole, guys, but how did they break huge blocks of stone?
Right.
Way back, thousands of years. You know, they didn't have saws, or maybe they did.
Yeah.
But they used natural materials like water, ice.
Yeah.
Ice will break things, saying, you know, as it expands.
Yeah.
And it's really simple in principle. So you look at things like this and you go, all right, how many other things out there still exist in trees? So this brings me back to when I was in college, went to this estate. Guy was a product of the Great Depression, didn't trust the banking system, very much a survivalist and very off the grid. When we looked in his backyard, there, you know, those old tractors that have the two skinny tires in the front,
Yep.
you know, not a full axle,
Yeah.
it's just it's a turn, and the big tire. Well, a tree had lifted that entire tractor 5 feet off the ground.
Wow.
You know how long that took? And that guy was still living there going, well, I guess I'm not going to get the tractor today. It's in the tree.
Jeez.
So that's how powerful these things can be. I've even seen trees with sections of railroad track lifted up. So it happens. But you'd never think to look up and go, oh, that's a rifle barrel sticking out of the tree.
I see stuff on the eastern front of World War II. A lot of those Eastern European countries, guys will see all sorts of weaponry or gear just popping up in the forest, 6 feet off the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know. So that's a whole other avenue. I don't know. I just think this stuff is fascinating.
It is. So just as we have right here, let's break it into two parts, because for one, if somebody were just to have the gun in its current state, not a lot of value right there. A few $100s for a rusted out.
You'd be surprised.
Okay. Well, let's hear it.
Okay. Because there is a whole collecting fraternity that collects relics. They want the things that the more rusty and nasty, as long as you can identify what it is, they gravitate to that because there's no question of its authenticity.
Right. That makes sense.
And especially if it was found adjacent to a major battle or what happened, now you've got real provenance.
Right.
And I'm sorry, you can try to replicate this and fake it, but why? Why would you take an original gun and intentionally rust it and try to put it in a tree?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
It's silly to do that.
So just for what we have in front of us, what would something like this even go for?
So I've seen just what they call them as rusties at the gun shows and relics. So a typical, Remington, either a 44 or 36, Navy versus an Army, they're going to, the rusties will be $900 to $1,200. But here's the interesting thing. The way they are making reproductions, and some of the reproductions are garbage and some of them are really, really nice. Well, they get pricey. But when you compare, if you're going to just wanting an example and thinking, well, I can't afford an original, I'm going to stop you right there. Because a lot of these reproductions have climbed the ladder to where they're almost par with entry-level, real antique specimens.
Wow.
So my question is, if you're going out, you want to fire one of these things, great, buy a reproduction. I encourage you to do that. Do not fire the originals. But if you're just looking for an example, you can find a real one for the same price that you're going to buy a reproduction. And let's not forget, a reproduction's always going to be worth what a reproduction is worth.
Yeah.
The real thing is always going to be the real thing.
Right.
So I just making that point.
So let's say for what we have before us here, if you were to sell this, what would you even price the whole thing at?
I've been offered north of $7,500 for this.
Wow.
And again, it means a lot to me, who it came from and it just the story behind it. And again, yes, I am a dealer, but I am also a collector. So this is kind of one of those things that once it goes, I'm never going to be able to replace it.
No.
So, and the story behind it, that's what gets lost. And you may have heard me say this before, but a lot of these come with stories. Well, that's all it is. When you go to sell it, I have a hard time conveying that story as fact because I don't know that it is. So then that leads into provenance. Now, what is provenance? Provenance is the story that goes along with an item that you can prove. And especially you can prove in a court of law. Yeah. So if Gary were to just tell me, hey, well, this was found in such and such, that's just a story. Yeah. Unless you can prove it, and this and that big file that I have has all the documentation that proves that the story is true and this is legit and this is where it came from. That's when you get the total package. That means everything and it adds value.
Yeah, absolutely.
So again, what is it worth? It's what somebody's willing to pay at that given point in time. Now, this in an auction, that's a whole different ball of wax. If the auction house were to present the information correctly, who knows where this would go?
Yeah.
Because again, they're not looking at it as, well, okay, this is a $1,200 rusty and the tree is a tree. And it's the whole package and the whole provenance that goes with it.
Right.
That's what equals the value.
Well, I can't say I've seen anything like this in person, and the stories I could tell could go on for years.
Yeah.
So if you guys like stories like this, I mean, it's hard to beat that, but I know we've got stuff coming up that's going to blow your minds. And
well, if we haven't blown your mind yet, I mean, we're doing something wrong.
Yeah. So you will get to see more of this kind of stuff on our Patreon. So head over to Patreon, look up History Roundtable. That's where you'll see all stuff like this. Get to see us do a little bit more deep dives, show maybe even maps and more provenance related to items like this. So head over there. We've got multiple tiers, so you can even check out just a little snippets for free. And everything else, there's wonderful content for each tier. So
we're building all sorts of swag, cool t-shirts, all sorts of stuff that, I mean, if you like that kind of stuff, we're going to offer it. Why not?
Exactly.
Everybody else is.
Yeah.
That's where we say, since everybody else is jumping off the bridge, we're going to do it too. So
might as well. Well, we hope you enjoyed today. We'll see you on the next one. I'm Josh.
I'm Sean.
We'll see you on the next one.
History Roundtable, an all-new season. Don't forget to like and share your favorite episodes. And to learn more about the artifacts on the show, visit tortugatrading.com and commodorecoins.com. Till next time.